and we're into more of it now, and we're we're getting better at it. Just to open up different avenues, to make ourselves successful.
So touring, clothing, and
touring,
also
clothing, movies, publishing. Just.
I don't want to compete with him, Steve. I'm not interested yet.
But and then on the tours, you are wise enough or big enough for something where you don't mind sharing billing with Eminem or Bono.
Yeah, it's fun for me, for one, and for two, like we were saying in the car, like 1 + 1 is 3 for me. I don't have that ego where I have to be the only guy on the bill or the only one that people look at. I'm cool with going out with other artists. I've been doing it my entire career. Before Eminem, before Bono, it was R. Kelly or 50 Cent or DMX. I've been doing it my entire career. I just believe that the giving people a better package. That when they leave the concert hall, they want to come back again. You can get them there the first time. If what you're putting on is not incredible and impactful, then why would they come back the second time? I think that's a lot of people make that mistake. When they're hot at the moment, they just sell them. They sell off the name and sell off the moment. Yeah, the shiny things. You fall in love with shiny things. You sell off the moment, and then when people come to the concert, they don't have the experience. Well, we're over-delivering on the experience. You're not only getting Eminem, you're getting Eminem and Jay-Z. You're not only getting Bono, you're getting Bono and Jay-Z. You can't help but leave that concert, with almost like a once-in-a-lifetime experience every single time. That's what I'm trying to create.
Oh, well, Warren, you said you wouldn't want to compete against Jay. What advice would you...
He's super duper joking.
What advice would you have for a man who's succeeded in a business where it's often short-lived, being convulsed? How do you like to businesses where you say there's a moat, where the competitors can't get you? What advice would you give on Jay building moats?
Well, he's building moats, all the time. Obviously, and that's why he's succeeding, even though he's moved beyond the age that you normally associate his field with. So, the best moat you can have is your own talent. They can't take it away from you. Inflation can't take it from you. Taxes can't take it from you. So, when I talk to students, I see these students and I tell them, you're $1 million asset. I would pay you $100,000 the MBAs for 10% of the earnings for the rest of your life. So that makes you $1 million asset. Now, if you can do something to increase that value 50%, if you can learn to communicate better verbally or in written form, and you become 50% more, that's $500,000 just by improving yourself. Nobody can take that away from you. And so I urge everybody, when I talk to them in high school about this and college, is just develop the habits. You've got the brain power, you've got the energy, but develop the habits of success and look around you at the people that you admire, and list what makes you admire them compared to somebody else that looks equally strong or equally talented. And those are things that you can do. Just write them down. And people like people that they like them if they're humorous, if they're friendly, if they give credit to the other fellow. And they don't like them if they're stingy, or they overstate and overpromise and all those sort of things. Well, that's a decision you make. So I encourage everybody to build your own moat around yourself.
Jay, you have any advice you want to give to Warren on building moats?
What am I going to say to this guy, man?
He can do things I can't do. Believe me, I can't do anything he can.
He's a brilliant thinker.
Well, this then gets to what is money for? You've greatly succeeded. You haven't made the mistakes that others made to get a success, and then you let it destroy your discipline. In terms of there are only so many steaks we can eat, or hamburgers, or whatever, the value added, we'll start with you, Warren, maybe you can start this part of the conversation. The value added you always had was you could employ capital, multiply it, which meant more businesses, more people for pensions, more hiring, that was a great service. I was doing a real public good. Yet a few years ago, you decided you were going to do something in addition to multiplying capital, which meant opportunity and a higher standard of living.
Well, Steve, if you go back, really when I was in my 20s, I mean, it sounds obnoxious, but I really did know I was going to become rich. I mean, because I'd learned something that was going to work. And my wife and I decided then, I mean, she was 100% on board, my first wife, and on this, and we were going to enjoy life. We were going to have everything possibly use or need. But incidentally, I think a $5 dinner in many cases is better than a $100 dinner. So I think
with wine too.
Yeah, cost of living and standard of living are not necessarily the same. But I thought I would compound money at a rate well above average, and we decided we'd live well. We never denied ourselves anything. It meant independence, so I could do what I wanted to do, and then I felt one way or another it would go back to society. Now, I thought my wife would outlive me. She was a little younger, and women live longer than men. And she loved the actual process of seeing people with problems that money would help. And I loved the game I was in. So I thought we would, basically we'd pile it up, and she would do the distribution of it. And she did a lot of it while she was alive, but the big money was going to be later on. And then she died while I was still alive, and then I had to make a decision as to the best way to get this money spent in an intelligent way, relatively promptly, and I came up with the idea of splitting among 5 foundations, the largest of which is the Gates Foundation. And that was 4 years ago, and I couldn't be more pleased with the decision. I haven't denied myself anything. I mean, I eat everything I want. I travel any place I want.
Have you denied society something that the capital, if you keep employing it, might have done more good in more companies?
Berkshire's still around. I'm still running it. I mean,
I'm not doing so bad.
I'm making it still for the charities, but I'm making it for a lot of other people too. So I didn't have to give up anything. I didn't have to give up what I love doing every day. I didn't have to give up any material thing in the world, and my 3 children are each involved with a foundation which lets them put money behind their energies. And no, I think it's really worked out wonderfully for me. I mean, it's been a perfect solution. And when my wife was pregnant, I didn't think I was going to deliver a baby. And if I get a toothache or something, I don't take out my own tooth. I turn it over. I follow Adam Smith's advice. I turn it over to a specialist. And there's no reason to think that because I'm good at making money that I would be the best necessarily at distributing it. I want certain goals in terms of how it's distributed, but I'm perfectly willing to turn it over to people who are going to spend their lives specializing in that. I want them to get it done promptly, and I want it to be in sync with the kind of things I want to support. But I don't think I have to do it myself.
Now, in terms of that, many times a foundation gets set up, and
goes off in a different direction.
And there's a thing called Parkinson's Law, that an organization becomes self-centered, in for itself, and forgets its purpose that it was created for.
I see it all the time.
And you see it in business. That's why they go broke oftentimes. But in foundations, you see it. So you made a provision that was not going to happen with your funds. They had to be, those monies had to be employed, within 10 years?
10 years after my state's completed, yeah. And the money has to all be spent. It can't go to institutions which in turn put it in their endowment or anything like that. I want people that I know and I know are in sync with me and I know will be true to certain ideals. I want them to dispense it, because who the hell knows 50 years from now, when the place becomes some large institution, what will happen? People will rationalize then that what's good for the institution is exactly what old Warren thought, 40 years ago on his deathbed. So I've seen that happen too often. Foundations are not tested by a market system. I mean, if you've got a business idea and he's got music, it's being tested by a market system. Whether people will make a decision with whether that next album is good, and they'll make a decision, on whether Coca-Cola still keeps them happy and all that sort of thing. A foundation has no market test, so it's very easy if there's not a market test, as people will find out in government and other places. It's very easy to start rationalizing things that are a long way from what originally people thought you were setting out to do.
And you were in terms of you're just beginning looking at charities, and you have a very unusual one. Scholarship fund, Sean Carter Scholarship Fund. Describe it, and where do you think you see it going?
Yeah, for me, that the reason I focused on that because such a small thing changed my life, right?